I mean, let's go there. I was hoping to be kidnapped by aliens because I need that break.
Yeah. And we're live. Woohoo! And, and it's a familiar face. It's Christelle, who some of the more observant of you, longer term, she was a co-host on the show, but she hasn't been on the last couple of shows. So I wanted to find out what you're up to and explain the rather prosaic reason why you've not been on the show lately.
Okay, so first of all, I've missed a few things. I'm now labeled as the llama trainer I saw on the intro.
Yeah.
That's new. I'm the llama trainer, and I'm happy to be. Second of all, Tim, when you described me as what's the word you used? Prosaic?
Well, no, well, prosaic is like an ordinary. I think it means ordinary. It's kind of like
No,
so.
I looked it up. I Googled it because I was like, what does that mean? It's a pretty boring, nothing, like no drama kind of reason she's been
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, it's fundamentally the reason is that you've been working in a different shift pattern the last couple of weeks. I think that's kind of it.
months. So Tim was like, we better get you on to make sure people know you didn't die. And
Yeah. Well, I think A, they think you died. B, we've fallen out. Or C, you've been kidnapped by aliens. Now, the aliens one, if you have been kidnapped by aliens, then I want to know what happened. But
I mean, let's go there. I was hoping to be kidnapped by aliens because I need that break.
yeah,
I think it'd be fun. I think it'd be fun. I'm not against it. We have not fallen out. Tim is one of my BFFs of all time. And by the way, I just want to let people know on the show, Tim, don't get embarrassed. I know you don't like us uplifting you too much, but Tim is such a phenomenal friend. If any of his friends, not just me, disappear, he is the one who's going to be checking on us, making sure we're okay every once in a while. So Tim, thank you for that. I really appreciate your friendship. Don't go red. I really appreciate your friendship. And I know I'm not the only one. I know Tim has a reputation for just being a really good, loyal friend. And we all appreciate that about you, Tim. But here I am. I mean, we can get into some stories. I was texting you, I think, last night because I couldn't go to sleep. I have weird sleep patterns. I think it was like 3:00 in the morning, my time, or some random time. And I was like, Tim, to be honest, there's things happening in the world that are more exciting than what's happening in my life. I mean, first of all, you guys just voted in a new prime minister. Our former president was shot and tragically lives were lost. Just a horrific situation there. We're in the middle of voting season, which is a bit crazy over here in America. What else has happened? There's global IT shut down yesterday. What was that?
Well, today actually UK time.
Today UK time.
Yeah, so I don't really entirely understand what happened. It was something to do with a lot of corporate systems just stopped. Right, they just stopped running totally. That Microsoft used for these big like airlines and all the rest of it. And some people's Office and Excel and stuff that they use stopped working. But I use it and it seemed to be working for me. So I was like,
It's using. Well, apparently StreamYard must not use whatever it is they have because we're on that right now. I've seen a lot of friends saying they can't work today. Planes are grounded. People can't get up. I haven't heard a plane. Are they going again? I haven't been up long enough.
Yeah, no, well, I mean, there's nothing stopping. I don't think there's been anything stopping the planes from running. Like, there's no. But it was all the booking systems and the like thing that print. Like somebody was showing like there was a handwritten boarding pass that people were doing. That was what it wasn't that the planes couldn't fly. It's just
no, it's probably
all
more
of the admin.
Yeah,
like all of the stuff. I mean, this shows how dependent we've become technology wise now, and it's not even like a big issue. It's just because there's so many of they have these off the shelf big products that they shove on like they sell, and there's usually a load of money goes under the table. But that's a whole nother matter as to where these companies get their products from. But yeah, it shows you all of the airlines that are using Microsoft products, and this particular one, I think it's called Counter-Strike or something. This is some sort,
Yeah. I mean,
and it had the issue of like, well, it's supposed to protect like these big networks from being attacked, but it had the opposite effect today, and it apparently was just an update they put out that managed to crash all these machines. So
I mean, I was thinking how interesting that would be if there was something that was capable of wiping out technology so we couldn't communicate. Because last time we were stuck indoors and couldn't do anything was during a pandemic. And this, I mean, something like this, if we actually couldn't communicate, would quite depressing. I mean, no communication going in or
we
out.
might have to go outdoors.
We might have to go for walks.
Out to the outside. Yeah, it is interesting, like how we've come ahead as a society, but also how vulnerable we are to technology. We become so dependent on technology for everything.
I think that's key. And for the people who don't have a network out, well, I mean, let's say potentially all communication shut off. We'd be going backwards to what people used to have to do, I suppose. And I know, I'm sure it would get fixed within 24 hours, 48 hours, whatever. But just potentially imagine all communication shut off, and people who are kind of out in the boondocks and don't have neighbors anywhere nearby communicate, and they have no one to communicate with.
Well, but they might be the people who are the best off, because they tend to be more like the prepper kind of. They've got their own water supply in their hills and the rest of it. It's the rest of us who are going to be in it. I mean, like, you say your water goes down and you've got no way to tell anybody, or no way to look up to say, oh, because now if like the water goes down here, I go onto the Thames Water website, who are the people who run it, and they're usually pretty damn quick, and they like say, oh, there's a water main burst down the road, and you go on this little map and you can see that, and they say, oh, it's going to be fixed in 5 hours. But now it'd be like, if you had no communication, and then, and of course they would have the issue, they wouldn't know that even if all the water system, everybody turned up to work in all the water companies, they wouldn't know there's a water main breach down the road, because unless somebody drove to their offices to tell them.
Yeah.
So it would have all sorts of weird ancillary effects the longer it lasted if communication broke down, because we just rely on it so much.
We rely so much on media and all kinds of media. And I think it looked like, to me, again, I fell asleep right after I kind of read everything, but it looked like Australia was especially affected. Like their news media was down, and
well, one of our, like Sky News in the UK, was down for a couple of hours, I think. I'm not really sure why, but they weren't broadcasting apparently for a couple of hours this morning. Australia was affected because it happened during Australian kind of peak time, in the middle of the night.
That's what I mean, we were all in bed over here in America, and that was their daytime, awake time. So I kind of figured it might have something to do with that, but.
Yeah, well, here it was kind of, when I was waking up, it was kind of people saying about, oh, it's down and the rest of it. So yeah, I think it was probably like 6 a.m. here sometimes, something like that.
So,
but okay. Australia, it's peak time. So
that's our global news. Tim, how are you guys doing over there across the globe, across the pond? You guys voted in a new prime minister. How's England doing over there? UK, I guess.
Well, the UK, yes, not England.
It's the whole UK gets the prime minister, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Even though the way that our system works, you elect people by seats. So there's 650 seats in the UK. So each represents a local area. Northern Ireland, the part of Ireland that's still within the United Kingdom, and there's a huge thing. I actually went to Belfast for the first time a few weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
And they have their own totally separate groups of politicians and political parties in Northern Ireland. So even though there's 650 seats, there's like, I don't know, 18 seats in Northern Ireland. They're all totally different. I'm like, okay. So they've all got their own totally different. And I think actually Sinn Féin, who are the Irish Republican Party, have the most seats, and they don't take up their seats in the UK Parliament because they don't agree with Northern Ireland being in the United Kingdom.
Okay.
But that's kind of irrelevant, really. Scotland has its own weird nationalist party, the Scottish Nationalist Party, but they totally collapsed even more, I think, than the Tories, who were the Conservative Party, who were the governing party across the whole UK. They had their biggest ever defeat in the existence of the Conservative Party. So they're like the sort of, I would say right wing, but have been quite sort of centre lefty. Their policies was just so uninspiring, and they were just so incompetent, the Conservatives, that they really got what they was coming to them, to be honest. And the funny thing is that because of the peculiarity of our voting system, what happened was that Labour's vote really didn't change very much, and yet because their vote was kind of like here, and the Tory vote would have been up here for each individual seat. But there were so many seats where the Tory vote fell below what the Labour vote was, and Labour took hold of the seat that Labour have now got this enormous, ridiculously big majority in the House of Commons, even though they only got like 33% of the vote. It's just kind of the nature of the system, really. So obviously, and also there's the rise of Nigel Farage's quite far right party Reform, and they only got 5 seats in the end, but they got almost as many votes as the Tories did. So the right has split in the UK, and it's because of the electoral system. That's meant that like Labour has shot up relatively without actually getting any more votes. So it's quite a change, really.
So let me ask this. So I know you guys, you don't vote in a person, you vote in a party, but I'm not sure how this works from here. Do you already have?
No, we do vote in a person.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Each of the seats has a candidate, but the candidate is usually backed by a party. So it's similar to what you would have like in the House of Representatives, actually, in the US. It's almost a identical kind of system.
Okay.
Though we don't have quite as bad as the House of Representatives in that we have an independent body that draws up all the constituency boundaries. It's not gerrymandered like in the US. I mean, there's always talk of, I mean, some people would say that the electoral system itself is gerrymandered, but it's a totally separate agency that goes through and draws little lines as to which seat, and they have to have certain rules as to how many people they have to have in each seat and that kind of stuff. There also isn't any of this weird kind of racial lines voting thing you get in the US. Like, I think there's a US resolution that they have to have a certain number of African Americans in particular seats in the US to give them seats that are definitely going to be African American in the state. But there's nothing like that in the UK. It's purely on population. But so there have been several candidates like Jeremy Corbyn, who was the Labour leader and was thrown out of the party because he was allegedly anti-Semite. He won his seat as an independent again. So he beat the Labour candidate the new Labour candidate in his own seat. So yeah, you vote for individuals, but in effect, it's like the party. People mainly voting for the party.
Okay. So you guys are okay. You survived the election.
Yeah.
England's doing good over there.
Yeah, and in the European Championship football, which I'm sure probably passed you over, England got all the way to the final despite not playing very well. So.
Well, you might be surprised that Brandon watches all the games. And I was teaching preschool and kindergarten and summer school, and we're getting a professional team here in San Diego. And they were watching soccer. They're all, because San Diego is actually a big, as you call it, football. We're actually a big soccer/football city, more so than a lot of our nation. And so possibly because we're so close to Mexico, I'm not sure. But the kids were watching it. They were wearing their jerseys, mostly Messi. But
are you talking about the Copa America though? Because that was running at the same time.
Oh, you know what? I think I'm talking about both. Brandon, what were you watching? Brandon was watching both. I think my students were watching Copa America.
Yeah, because Copa America, for reasons I don't entirely understand, was being hosted in the US this year. And they invited the US to be in it, but apparently it was a bit of a sham. I heard it was a bit of a shambles in terms of like the pitches weren't very good, and there were worries in the Uruguay some Colombia game that the players had to jump into the crowd to protect their families and all this kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, Brandon was following England big time. But
well, my apologies to Brandon because England played fairly crap most of the time. They just always kept winning in the last minute with sort of some sort of wonder goal, but they were just terrible to watch most of the time.
I think he was cheering for England. Were you cheering for England, Brandon? He was hoping you guys would bring it home. So there you go. You have an English fan here. What did you say? He said it's never coming home. Sorry.
Yeah, well, England football's clearly on holiday and doesn't want to come back to England anytime soon. So
there's that. San Diego is getting a professional. What do you call it here? What do we call our professional? Brandon?
Nice.
MLS team. We're getting a professional MLS team. So
that's good. Because I know, like, you lost. Didn't you lose your American football team to somewhere in LA or somewhere, San Francisco?
You mean our actual football? NFL team. Yeah. This is a language transition. Yeah, we did. We lost the Chargers to LA, and half of San Diego is very upset about that to this day. Half of them won't cheer for the Chargers, and the other half will cheer for them until the day they die. So we have the Padres, which is baseball. We had a soccer team that was started by Landon Donovan, and that's pretty sad that it's shutting down. It actually shut down because he is really good at bringing community together. I don't know if it has anything to do with getting our new MLS team. I don't really know what happened, but losing Landon Donovan's team was pretty sad because he was working really hard to bring soccer to San Diego. But anyways, we'll see what happens with this MLS team. I know Brandon wants to go when they play Miami, Brandon? Messi's team. so when Messi's this way. So that's our sports news. Brandon and I have been out and about at the Padre games.
Yeah.
On Sundays, that's our favorite time to go.
Well, as long as you haven't been crawling around on any slope roofs near Trump rallies lately, that's the.
Oh my goodness, that's just so. Let me tell you about that. I'm laying in bed reading because one of the things I've been doing lately is I'm getting back into reading books, and I've taken away self-help books from my reading list. That's what I've been reading for the past 10 years. And I want to go back to reading for pleasure. So pat myself in the back. This month alone, I've read 4 amazing books. So I was reading amazing books. They're on my Instagram. You can see what I've been reading. And they were all suggested to me by friends. So I just started using my library app. I can check them out for free and reading them pretty fast. Once I get into a book, I read it within a day because I'm all in. So anyways, I was laying in bed and Brandon's like, what? And he starts making these noises. He knows he's not supposed to share all world events with me because I have severe anxiety and it really affects me. But oh my God, I think Trump is dead. Mom, just going telling me he's been shot. So I'm laying in bed reading a book. What? That initial kind of like 9/11, like you get this initial, what is happening? What are you talking about? And whether you're for Trump or not, any sane person doesn't want anyone to get hurt. And the second thing Brandon said is, oh my God, he has kids. His kids are there. Mom, his kids are there. So Brandon's immediately thinking his kids could see this. His wife could see this. Can you imagine the tragedy of, just the humanity of it all? And we were absolutely shocked and scared and what is happening. And so to find out that there was someone who actually was tragically shot and killed, a firefighter, which, my brother's a firefighter captain. That's America's heroes. Those are the first people into a fire. Those, again, going back to 9/11, how many firefighters did we lose at 9/11 because they're running in? This guy was jumping on top of his family to protect them and died in the process. So it was all just, I think, if our nation was anything like me, we were just in shock. It doesn't matter if you like the guy or not. It's shocking. He was one of our presidents, and nothing like that should happen to anybody.
Yeah.
So just sad and tragic and like, what in the world is going on? This is absolutely crazy. So yeah, I mean, what is kind of what are you, as you over there across the pond are talking to your friends and your neighbors and whatever, what is the world thinking of the situation over here in America right now? I mean, what does this even look like to you? What are you guys?
Well, I mean, Biden's been a bit of a comedy president for a while, hasn't he? In terms of, I mean, it's funny because we have similar things with the royal family here, as in that there's stuff we don't know about the royal family. And I think the extent of Biden's old old age pensionerism, his kind of dementia has been covered up, I think, for the last. I mean, that debate performance, I think, is finished him really. But allegedly, the trouble is, it's like they keep doing all these rumors that he's going to step aside, and then it doesn't happen. In terms of Trump, I mean, to the rest of the world, it's like, why on earth would you elect that guy? Why is he even in the race? But the thing is, he's like a Jeremy Corbyn or a Liz Truss figure, i.e., very popular with the party faithful, so he gets pushed up to the top. But I think if the Democrats put up a decent candidate against him, I think he'd probably lose. But I think that Biden insists on doddering his way into the thing. He's going to have another debate that's going to be a disaster. And yeah, I mean, the funniest thing with the whole Trump thing is, I mean, some people were saying, oh, it was staged. And it's like, well, it clearly wasn't staged because it would have taken fantastic planning to just hit his ear. I mean, you would have to be some sort of star marksman to deliberately hit when he moved his head as well. So I mean, and I'm not even sure that all the conspiracy theories that it's some sort of Biden was telling somebody not to go on that roof. I think probably what happened is usually look for the cock up situation. I think what happened, somebody was supposed to be on that roof, but for whatever reason they called in sick or something, or there was a miscommunication. And they're now like, oh yeah, we didn't send them up there. I think it was probably something like that, and they're kind of trying to, because it would be terrible on the person if you're like some sort of CIA agent who's supposed to be working on the Trump rally, and you call in sick, and they don't realise that the place he or she was supposed to be was like that. So that is my suspicion, rather than it was Biden's people left it clear for this kid to crawl up the. And I don't blame like the snipers for not shooting the guy before he fired. Because can you imagine if they'd shot somebody, the CIA snipers had shot somebody at a rally, and then it turns out he didn't have a rifle, he didn't have a gun. It's just some person who was going up there with a flag or something. You imagine the total. So this guy's probably thinking like, or even the person who was in their earpiece telling them what to do, they're gonna be like reluctant to shoot this person until it's definitely a shooter.
Yeah.
So I can understand that as well, but it was very close to Trump dying. I mean, it was like literally was that much. It was only because he turned his head, and so yeah, if it was staged, it was either very badly done, and he was supposed to miss totally, and he didn't miss totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. I think it was probably just a cock up in some shape or form. But the funny thing is, though, that people go on about how there's such a good handover and there's no political violence like that in the UK. But I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that there's much better gun control in the UK.
Yeah.
If we had the same gun laws that we have that you have here, I think there will be loads more assassination of prime ministers and political figures. I mean, we've had several murders of MPs over the last like 10, 15 years or so. They've been usually stabbed by people, like knifed and things. So, and before that, obviously, like a lot of MPs were blown up by the IRA and Irish terrorists in the 80s and 90s. So there's been a lot of political violence in the UK, but it's not so gun related because there aren't any guns here.
Yeah, so. It's legal to carry guns in certain states. It's actually illegal to carry a gun here in San Diego. I didn't know that, but it's actually written in our Constitution. This is something I learned recently, that we are not allowed to open carry here in San Diego. So that's
there's a lot of US state. I don't think California can open carry because it was always funny when I went to state. There was some places in, like, I think it was in Kansas, where they had this kind of like no guns allowed on shop doors and things.
Yeah.
And I was asking people about that, and they're like, yeah, it's making a point that they don't want people, because you can have concealed carry in Kansas, I think, and a lot of those mid sort of Trumpy states in the middle.
Some of our states you can open carry, and again, living in California, I don't see often what's happening in other states. And when I moved away, I was always surprised at there is a huge difference across the states. You've been to every state, so you know better than me. But in the states I've been to, it's
the funny thing is I can understand the whole gun control thing in the US. It's like a lot of these issues. It's easy to paint scenarios where it's obvious it should be one or t'other. I don't think you should be allowed to have guns in cities. Places where there is a police force available, you really shouldn't have access to guns. But I can understand if you're in the middle of Nowhereville in Montana, and like you've got all these grizzly bears and things and animals and stuff, you probably do need a gun. And that is something that's not really much of an issue. There's very few places in the UK that are that rural. But in the US, there are whole states that are rural. So in that situation, having a gun makes sense. And to have a complete gun ban in the entire US probably doesn't make any sense. But on the other hand, like if you go to a city like San Diego, or even a big town in the US, there's really no need to have it. Having a gun is just going to be counterproductive. So I don't really know what the solution is for the US, but I think they need to get this whole binary. It's one way or the other. And it's like, you do not need an AK-47 or whatever, one of these assault rifles in most places in the US. Conceivably, you can need it in very rural surroundings, but how many bears are going to be attacking you at once that you need a semi-automatic weapon?
Yeah.
It's like,
well, we run fear campaigns over here, and so people just start getting paranoid and they think the worst. And what if everyone takes away all the guns and only the bad guys have guns? And that, we think it's big fear campaigns, and fear creates mass paranoia. And so suddenly everyone's running on fear and thinking the worst case scenarios, and you have things happening that shouldn't really be happening. And again, fear does really sad and crazy things to people when you're not used to.
Well, there's all this interpretation of what a well-organized militia means, which is in one of the actual, whichever the amendment is, I can't remember. Is it which amendment is it? It's the one for right to bear arms.
We need Jeremy on here to tell us these kind of things.
Well, I could Google it, but I can't be bothered. But it says you're allowed to right to bear arms as part of a well-organized militia, which kind of means like an organized group.
Yeah.
And apparently, the idea of that is that local organizations could potentially, rather than being run by an overarching central government, you could potentially have but that really doesn't make sense. It's kind of like, I was seeing some TikTok video where somebody was saying let's have the NRA people versus the US military and see how long they last. And it's like, the US military just brings in a drone that just attacks them all and they're all dead.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really matter if they've got guns.
Yeah.
So I think,
I'll tell you what, our youth is really thinking. I learn a lot from my kids, and I was raised, in the 80s, and I was raised a certain way in the Reagan administration and certain thought way of thinking. And our youth are really thinking differently. and to talk to my sons and how they think. Brandon, what do you think with the gun crisis here in America? What do you think should happen? I'm asking Brandon now because he's.
I think it's too out of control to do anything about it. Because everybody has a gun, so banning it is not going to do anything.
So I don't know if you can hear him, but he's basically said he thinks
It's too much out of our hands. We can't really do anything.
Can you hear him?
No.
So he basically said it's too far out of control to really do anything, and it's too late to really do anything. Is that basically what you said? What did you say? It's out of our hand.
Everybody has a gun already. So what do you like?
Everyone already has a gun. What are you going to do?
And like if everybody has a gun, you have nothing to protect yourself if it gets banned.
So he's saying if everybody has a gun, what are you going to do to protect yourself if they get banned? Because, however many, half of America has them. They get banned.
I mean, I suppose there's some truth to that, but on the other hand, there are places like not often muted like Australia where you need a mass gun amnesty, and you need you need a kind of. I mean, I'm not sure that really it's realistically worth having a total gun ban in the US. Is not going to be practical, but.
Yeah,
I think some of these are like semi-assault weapons and things where they are military weapons. I mean, do you need a semi-automatic weapon?
No, I mean, that's where. Listen, like if we can just get people to agree that we don't need assault weapons like that, like I'm not pro-gun by any means, but I'm willing to walk the line here. And at the very least, why can't we ban assault weapons? Nobody needs an assault weapon. Have your rifles, have your handgun. Nobody needs an assault. Why do people need to have those legalized?
Well, I mean, I think
with them.
Yeah, I mean, if you were going to be looking for a reasonable policy, and the trouble is nobody ever looks for reasonable policies. Everybody's always like let's take it. You could say like, well, you can keep your assault rifles and Uzis, but they have to be kept in a gun club, and you have to be like, you go in and it's locked up, and then you have to go to somebody who's a registered thing, open up and give you the gun to shoot at firing range.
What? I mean, let's talk. If you want to go hunting for deer or whatever, you can use your rifle. You can use your hand. What? You don't need to blow up the entire animal. What do you need these guns for? I don't understand. Like that's where my line is drawn. Like,
well, I mean, if you take the I think is it the Fourth Amendment? I'm like, maybe I'll Google it.
What amendment is it? Second Amendment, Brandon.
Second Amendment. Fourth Amendment. I think it's well. Anyway, Second Amendment. You could read it that everybody should be able to have a nuclear weapon. Because the right to bear arms, so you and Brandon should be able to have your nuclear weapons.
My word.
You can. Nobody's suggesting that, so it's kind of it's an interesting, but it is a big cultural. I mean, the UK has the television license in the UK is a kind of weirdly equivalent thing. This might sound totally thing, but we have to pay like 100 and I don't know what it is, 120 quid a year to have a television to pay for the BBC.
Yeah,
and that's everybody who has a television basically has to pay that. There's now something about it has to have live TV. Everybody universally agrees that it's a terrible idea. We don't really want it, but no government ever seems to want to breach because they don't. They know that if they put in general taxation, then they'll be accused that the BBC is not independent anymore. If they put it on televisions, it might not be enough. And there's so many things in every country in the world where it's blatantly obvious to everybody else who comes in that they should change this thing, and they just will not because it's a cultural thing, resistance to it. And the US gun control is the big thing in the US that would seem simple if you started to have reasonable people talking about what are you going to allow people to do. If you say you're not allowed to have assault weapons in big cities in the US, and that becomes a federal crime. It's that's 5-year thing, and you're not allowed to conceal or go anywhere near any gathering of people with assault weapons. That would be a start.
And we can't even start. That's the crazy thing. Why can't we? again, I am not pro gun by any means, but why can't we just start somewhere with, you can't be within 1,000 feet of a school or a gathering and not carry assault weapons? Like,
Yeah.
I don't get it. I really don't. So,
yeah. But I mean, it's one of those things where neither of the parties really, I mean, I think the Democrats would like to, but they're never. I mean, as somebody pointed out, this, like, if you counted the Trump shooting as a mass shooting, there have been about like 5 mass shootings since then. It's like ridiculous, like 3 or more people dying. So
it's crazy, Tim. I don't know. So we've been chatting for 35 minutes about global.
yes.
It's good.
So going back to the where is Christelle thing.
Where is Christelle?
We've already lost whatever listeners we had, and I don't know if I'll put this on. I might put this. I'll probably put this on the YouTube feed. They'll have a so this will be on YouTube, not this next Wednesday, the Wednesday after.
We need to talk. This is good.
The outgoing question is, for the next couple, you can't do it because of your weird prosaic work schedule, but we have sort of semi-agreed that going into August, we should be able to reschedule everything.
So let me explain to our beautiful friends and family who watch our show. So I started a new job back in January, and I was still getting used to the schedule when company meetings are, when I might have to meet with parents or teachers or whatever. I work for the school. I work for a nonprofit that works with children and youth, and I supervise a team of adults. I work with children. It's a whole thing. So I'm just learning how the schedule works, when meetings will take place. And so it's been really weird for me to get my kind of figure out with Tim. As soon as I think I know, I don't, and there's a meeting or something. So, and then now the summer's even way different. So for the next couple of weeks, I'm working hours that I won't be normally working during the school year. Once the school year starts, which we're going back very early this year, we're going back, I think, August 9th or 12th, something like that. We're very early. And next year it's going to be even earlier. So for whatever reason why we're doing that, I don't know. But my schedule will be going back to normal. I think Tim and I have agreed that I can come on Tuesdays and Wednesdays at 11. Tim is still going to try possibly to jump on if there's interviews happening any other times. My meetings tend to be on the other days. So it's kind of what we've agreed to. Sometimes I might be alone. Sometimes Tim might be alone. It's always happier when we're together. So we have such a grand time. So if we can be together at last, if we can be together, we prefer it, but it's not necessarily going to always happen. But I think we've figured out the schedule now, and it's going to become better come August here when I'm back to my normal schedule. There we go.
And I am feeding the shows onto YouTube, and I may even get around to actually release them as podcast as well. I've been threatening to for a while. I've worked out how to do it now.
You have? I want them to be podcasts. Some of our shows, anyone watching now or in the future, some of our shows are really good. I mean, we've had some phenomenal humans that are teaching free stuff, how to market. We've had professors on, we've had authors on, we've had all kinds of people teaching stuff for free that you could really learn from these.
And we've got a little bit of a theme of authors at the moment, because I went to a conference in June, and also I'll get recommended a load of authors recently. So we've had a kind of weird stuff, and then we've had authors for a while, but we all go back to, there are people on YouTube I've been stalking and trying to get on.
Are you kidding? We need some alien followers and some ghost chasers on our show. Are you following
that? Well, the Alien Abduction one did, not Alien Abduction, it's the Alien History.
How did that one did good?
Yeah, it took like it was about like 800 or 900 views, but then I looked in YouTube and it went. So on the YouTube version, I'm cutting the intro off now, and I'm putting like a little best 10 seconds of the interview. For this one, I probably won't bother. But just because I noticed people just don't hang around for the titles on YouTube.
No.
Give a literary, which is a shame because I spend a lot of effort on the titles, but they don't
Well,
work on YouTube.
I am a llama trainer. I don't like this, that. Yeah, that's important stuff. You know,
Yeah.
it's funny. What makes me laugh though is our some of our most watched shows for whatever reason are the ghost chasers and the alien.
Yeah,
alien.
no, people like weird stuff. Well, look, to be honest, I like weird stuff as well. I mean, that's the thing. If I can find weird, that reminds me of there's somebody who's a balloon artist I was trying to get on. I need to. It's all about change. The whole thing about interviewing that's weird that people don't appreciate is how hard it is to chase guests and get.
Yeah.
Some people are just like you give them the link and they just click it and they book it.
Yeah.
Other people are like, it is like drawing teeth. It's kind of like you have to go like say, please come on, and then they finally get around to using the link, and then I can't do that time. I'm like, okay, what time can you do? And it's like I'll have to go and change the system to open up a spot.
And
yeah.
interviewing, it's funny because I really like it. I think you really like it. We have a little bit of a different style, but not we tend to be able to flow pretty good. But interviewing, it's funny because I was at a social media conference with you actually, and someone asked me how we prepare our interviews, and we both were like, we don't.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the. I mean, I actually got pretty good doing just standalone ones now. I used to always struggle because it works well if you've got a co-host, because I can be thinking of a question when they're answering your question and vice versa, and it just makes it quite easy. And also, like, you can follow up and you can listen to what the person actually says. But yeah, I mean, I don't like these shows where people have a list of questions. They can sometimes work, but a lot of the time it turns into a boring fest.
To have a conversation really is ideal. If we can actually have a conversation with people, that's my favorite. It doesn't always happen. It really depends on the person. We've had people on who will ask us questions too, and that's often my favorite because it becomes a conversation. But there's other people who are just getting used to the idea of interviews, and they're waiting for a question. There's other people who I'm extremely interested in, so I keep asking, and Tim's like, am I going to get a chance?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's easy to forget. I mean, years ago, I would have been super nervous doing an interview or doing a video show. But now, because I do them every week, it's kind of like, yeah, whatever. We'll talk. I did a podcast interview this morning, an audio one, and it was all about like my history with my late wife Rachel, and like talking about that. I couldn't have done that kind of interview like 5 years ago, just as much because of the emotional kind of content of it, also just the whole like overcoming nerves and all the rest of it. It really does, and it's easy to forget when you get somebody new on who's maybe like an author and they've been told they have to do interviews. And yeah, but I think we're quite good at putting people at ease. Let's pat ourselves on the back.
You know what, we are, and people say that all the time. And anyone who might be watching, we are looking for more people to come on. We have quite a few, and we're not looking for anything in particular. If people want to practice their interview skills.
Well, I'm not having like they've got to at least come up with something interesting-ish to say. Because I've made that mistake in the past of inviting people on who are just like people I really like, and sometimes that's good because you get the whole chemistry thing.
Yeah.
But if it's kind of like they're an expert on tiling or something, unless they're really interesting expert on tiling, I think it's like.
I mean, we can make it interesting, Tim. I'm not gonna lie. If they're an expert on tiling, I want to know where the dead body is. I mean, what we can.
Well, those are big tiles to cover up.
We can find the niche there. It's not.
Anyway, yeah, we have gone way over the time of what these shows should be. So,
do you know who's coming on next?
It's the trouble is I know what. So I keep mispronouncing. How would you pronounce Janice?
Janice.
Janice. Yeah, that's. But I think the trouble is, I got told off pronouncing her name like Janice, because it sounds like Janice, Jnis. I think it's Janice, kind of. But anyway, Janice Patworth is on next week, and I think that will just be me interviewing her because
it'll be just
you're
him as a lonely.
She's an author and self-publisher who she writes these kind of witty non-fiction books that people keep in the toilet, that sort of thing. So it should be. Yeah. She wants to talk about self-publishing, so we can talk about self-publishing, which she's very good at. So.
Oh, that's good. That's always a good topic. Lots of people are getting into self-publishing. So
yeah, and there's another interview on Wednesday, which I can't remember who it's from. It's another author. Looking at my
authors are fun.
Screen. Yeah, I'm not sure who she is. So, like, we have got somebody else on Wednesday. I think she's some sort of spiritual author or something. So,
which reminds me, we need to get that one author on, the tarot reader.
Actually, I'm talking it's not next week. It's the week after these two people are on. So, nothing on next week. So.
Oh, okay. So I want to get our tarot reader on. I want to get Jeremy back on. And then I have Brandon who wants to come on, my son. And my oldest son's best friend has an incredible story. We need to get him on. So we have a couple.
I think we should do like America's Got Talent kind of competition for all your sons to come on, and they have to compete. Like the one who does best, you like juggle. We'll give them various challenges, and then the one who does best can go on the show.
Not all sons are created equal with the talking thing. So I think only Brandon is going to come on.
Yeah.
But he has some interesting stories to share that I think the audience would really enjoy. So anyways, let's say bye. Thank you. I'm alive. Yeah. I'm well. Tim and I are still besties. We're good.
And you will be probably back on in August, I reckon.
I'll be back in August, especially when all these people come on that I want to be part of the conversation. Yeah. So good. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. We hope to see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
This is what God requires.